Well, the federal government continues to arm itself to the teeth while the Obama administration pushes for gun control. Earlier this week, it was announced that the Department of Homeland Security has awarded a company a contract worth over $45,000 to provide the DHS with 200,000 more rounds of bullets. This new purchase adds to the staggering figure of 1.6 billion rounds of ammunition that has already been secured by the DHS over the last 9 months. So, are they preparing for some kind of like a Red Dawn style invasion? Do they think that maybe Russia is going to attack, or are they worried that North Korea is going to invade the United States of America, or are they stockpiling all this ammunition in preparation for war against the American people? I mean, you have to wonder. The bullets are to be delivered to a training site in North Charleston, South Carolina, which specializes in maritime law enforcement and port security training. And this is interesting. The winner of the contract to provide the DHS with the ammunition is Avion Group Incorporated. This is an organization that was formed just 5 days before the announcement of the solicitation. So, I mean, it looks like these guys are a front group. I mean, they don't have any business assets to speak of. There's no real genuine physical address. They don't have a website. Hell, they don't even have a phone number. So, who are these guys? And you know that this is yet another blatant contradiction of the Obama administration, who's going around preaching gun control while at the same time arming itself to the teeth. I mean, this is an arsenal that they have right now that would be enough to wage a full-scale 7-year ground war against the American people. I mean, it is truly staggering, the stockpile of weapons and ammunition that has been recently accumulated by the federal government. And like Mike Adams noted on our show here recently, an American citizen is considered to be a stockpiling terrorist prepper if he, owns 1,000 rounds of ammunition. Meanwhile, the federal government, they can go out and purchase billions of rounds of ammunition, and the mainstream media doesn't even question it. So, it's definitely a double standard there.
There are new disturbing developments out of Washington tonight regarding the president's belief that he has the legal authority to assassinate U.S. citizens. Incredibly enough, it appears that our commander-in-chief actually believes that authority exists not only on foreign soil, but right here on American soil as well. Now, Kentucky Senator Rand Paul, who has been outspoken on the issue, recently asked the White House to clarify its position on how unmanned drones can be used to target Americans. Well, today he finally got his response. In a letter sent by U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder, who's America's top cop, he explains, quote, "It is possible, I suppose, to imagine an extraordinary circumstance in which it would be necessary and appropriate under the Constitution and applicable laws of the United States for the president to authorize the military to use lethal force within the territory of the United States." In other words, yes, President Barack Obama has the ability to order the assassination of an American citizen on American soil. Pretty incredible. Joining me now with reaction is none other than Kentucky Senator Rand Paul. So the president has the power to authorize lethal force, a drone strike against a U.S. citizen on U.S. soil without a trial?
But he wants no judicial oversight to kill an American. And I think what's important about this is listen to what his response is. His response is, we haven't killed any Americans yet. We don't intend to, but we might. And that's pretty disturbing. And the thing about the drone strike program is we're not talking about someone's actively attacking America. We're not talking about planes flying into the World Trade Center. What we're talking about is you're eating dinner in your house, you're eating at a cafe, or you're walking down the road. That's when these drone strikes can occur. it's not about people involved in combat. It's about people who they think might be. And if you're in America and you're accused of a crime, one of the basic principles, one of the protections we've always had is you get a trial. That's an accusation. You don't get convicted without a trial.
Well, there's been past instances where the issue of military force against American citizens on U.S. soil has been brought up as it relates to Posse Comitatus, and the Randy Weaver case was one. The case of the Branch Davidians was another case. Don't we have laws preventing that from happening?
Yeah, after the Civil War, we passed a law, the Posse Comitatus. It says the military doesn't act in the U.S.
It's contrary to America's traditions. It's contrary to our ideals. That's not who we are. That's not how we operate.
Every day, but they would authorize lethal force drone strikes against U.S. citizens on our soil without a trial, without due process?
Well, you know what I would say is there's an enormous amount of hypocrisy coming from President Obama and his administration.
They are as determined as ever.
Mr. Chairman, small arms and light weapons are truly weapons of mass destruction.
The United Nations conspiring with the majority of its members to do what they've already done to their own citizens. Deny you your firearm freedom.
In New York, right here in our own shores, we've got a Trojan horse. They want to set U.S. firearms policy. They want to take the decision away from the U.S. electorate and undermine our Constitution.
That's really their ultimate agenda, to bring the United States down from the pinnacle of freedom to simply being another one of these socialist states where the government controls everything.
And just who are these gun grabbers? Countries like Japan.
We strictly punish and control the possession and the use of small arms by civilians.
Britain and Australia.
Firearm owners in Australia must also demonstrate a genuine reason for ownership.
The Netherlands.
It's my firm conviction that the illicit trade cannot be tackled without involving the legal arms trade.
And Canada, led by its former Minister of Justice, Alan Rock.
Registration is the cornerstone of the entire strategy.
Alan Rock is now Canada's voice at the United Nations. His anti-gun agenda is now front and center at the world stage. That's scary.
Scary because the United Nations continues to get away with what it does best.
It's a stealth operation.
Secretly scheming behind closed doors to outlaw your guns.
We must not wait until 2006.
Accountable to no one.
People don't get elected to the UN. And that's the really scary thing. How the hell do you get rid of a UN bureaucrat?
These are the biggest human rights violators in the world, and they're trying to tell people in the United States that we shouldn't have certain civil liberties.
But the UN is not pushing its agenda alone. There's a propaganda machine working every day, targeting the NRA and gun ownership as evil. It's called IANSA, the International Action Network on Small Arms.
This is not about military small arms. This is not about rocket launchers.
What they're really after is my Winchester hunting rifle.
Just log on to IANSA's website, and you'll see it's made up of more than 500 anti-gun NGOs, or non-governmental organizations.
They are absolutely awesome in terms of the power they have.
Power and a plot that is being engineered right here in London, in that building behind me where IANSA is headquartered. Imagine, nearly 230 years after the American Revolution, there are still forces at work here on British soil, determined to trample on your freedom.
The President of the United States.
It is our generation's task, then, to reignite the true engine of America's economic growth, a rising, thriving middle class. The greatest nation on earth cannot keep conducting its business by drifting from one manufactured crisis to the next. Gabby Giffords deserves a vote. The families of Newtown deserve a vote. The families of Aurora deserve a vote. The families of Oak Creek and Tucson and Blacksburg and the countless other communities ripped open by gun violence, they deserve a simple vote. it remains the task of us all, as citizens of these United States, to be the authors of the next great chapter of our American story. Thank you. God bless you. And God bless these United States of America.
11 years ago today, most Americans had never heard of an Islamist group with an Arabic name meaning the base. But within a matter of days and for the next decade, the name Al-Qaeda would become synonymous with terrorism. And 11 years later, we're still fighting Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan, Pakistan, and in Yemen. Though our history with Al-Qaeda is very complicated. To begin with, it was the United States government that created Al-Qaeda in the first place. It was during the 1970s. The U.S. decided to create an Islamist extremist group to sow the seeds of discord in the Stans, like Pakistan and Afghanistan. The goal was to create problems for the Soviets. If you don't believe me, here's Secretary of State Hillary Clinton.
To be fair, we had helped to create the problem we're now fighting. How? Because when the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan, we had this brilliant idea that we were going to come to Pakistan and create a force of mujahideen, equip them with Stinger missiles and everything else to go after the Soviets inside Afghanistan.
Now, history tells us the United States actually created this enemy Al-Qaeda. Well, since 9/11, we've spent over $1 trillion battling Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan, Pakistan, and in Yemen, not to mention the Iraq War, which was, if you'll remember, originally sold as a safe haven for Al-Qaeda. That, of course, turned out to be false. So if Al-Qaeda is our sworn enemy, why is the United States supporting Al-Qaeda fighters as part of the Syrian opposition, just as we did Al-Qaeda fighters in the Libyan uprising? Well, right now, the U.S. is providing non-lethal assistance. We are facilitating other countries. According to the New York Times, the weapons, including automatic rifles, rocket-propelled grenades, ammunition, and some anti-tank weapons, are being funneled mostly across the Turkish border by way of a shadowy network of intermediaries, including Syria's Muslim Brotherhood, and paid for by Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar. The Times goes on to say that the CIA is part of that process of getting these weapons to these groups, though the U.S. isn't actually providing the weapons themselves. So what you need to know is the old enemy of my enemy is my friend adage just doesn't seem to work here. U.S. involvement in the Middle East has been problematic for decades. But on this day, consider for a moment the last two countries in the Middle East where the U.S. has intervened. Let's start in Egypt, where we helped to overthrow the dictator Mubarak, who we propped up. Well, today, thousands of protesters gathered outside the embassy in Cairo. The American flag, flying at half-mast to mark the anniversary of 9/11, was ripped down and destroyed. And also today in Libya, an armed mob attacked the U.S. consulate in Benghazi and set fire to the building. And in both cases, those protests happened over a film that reportedly offends Islam. The point is that the same opposition we support today very well may be the same militants who we're at war with tomorrow. A foreign policy that doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense. And that is Reality Check.
This administration, through Secretary Hillary Clinton, is going to announce that it could care less what Congress has ordered about helping the enemies of Israel, about helping those who are terrorizing and persecuting Christians in Egypt and destroying churches and eliminating freedom of religion, and are saying they want to rethink their peace accord with Israel and setting themselves up to be the enemy of Israel. And now this administration, knowing that Congress passed a law that says you can't give people money in Egypt unless you can certify to certain facts. And they cannot, not honestly. If they do so now with what we know publicly, we know they will not be honest in doing so. And they're going to give $1.5 billion, not in humanitarian aid, according to this story, not food, military aid. So forget all of those speeches that this president gave at AIPAC and, oh gosh, we're Israel's best friend, we're going to help them, because, oh no, we're going to give people who have the power to destroy Israel on the border with Israel military aid as they are planning, many there make it clear they hate Israel, they hate us. And I've said over and over, we don't have to pay people to hate us. They'll do it for free. We have to quit funding the enemy of us and the enemy of our friends. This is insane. And it's time that we do not provide military aid, abetting, and assistance to people that want to destroy Christians, that want to destroy Israelis, and that want to put the world in turmoil and have everyone living exactly as they dictate. We want to keep some freedoms here and in Israel, and the way to do that is not to fund and provide military assistance to anyone unless we know they are our friend, they're Israel's friend, they're the friends of our friends. To do otherwise will bring calamity on this country like they will not realize until it's too late.
The greatest nation on earth cannot keep conducting its business by drifting from one manufactured crisis to the next.